I thought it was striking the other night in the State of the Union address when the president, in the first paragraph, I think it was, of his speech, he talked about the economy or our country going through a time of economic uncertainty. I totally disagree. There's nothing uncertain about what's happening out there. It's very certain that people feel the impacts, the horrific impacts of this mortgage foreclosure crisis. I think it's deadly certain what people are feeling when they're lining up for food benefits or any other kind of help that we can provide them, as Senator Brown outlined in Ohio and Pennsylvania. I saw the same thing across our state, record numbers of people lining up. And it's also very certain what a lot of families will live through this year and next year, at a minimum being worried about and in some cases being adversely impacted on children's health insurance. This president vetoed the children's health insurance bipartisan agreement, both parties, both houses. He vetoed it not once but twice. So those are certainties and realities for people. There's nothing uncertain about that. So this is an administration and a president that for 7 years, and there's one more year to get some things right, but for 7 years has presided over and fostered an era of debt and division and drift. Debt in the sense that we're paying record amounts for the borrowing. Just think of this. Under this administration, the national debt has gone from just a little bit less than $6 trillion to, by the end of this year, the projection is $10 trillion throughout the life of one administration. So that's the debt, and that's bad enough. But then when you think about what that debt does, I think last year, what we paid in debt, $430 billion last year, the interest payments. That's more than Medicaid and SCHIP, and you could add a couple more programs in there. So we're paying for it now, but also we know what that kind of legacy means for our children, our grandchildren, and beyond that. So instead of passing on that debt, the president this year, even in the waning days of his administration, the last year of his administration, should figure out a way and should understand what people are up against to pass on something more than debt and rancor and partisanship, and pass on some hope, pass on the kind of investment that we've been trying to get them to focus on, investment in children, investment in our health care, and investment in fiscal responsibility. He's the president who, once again, the other night went on and on about tax cuts for wealthy people. In the midst of a time of war and at a time of recession, I don't care what the economists say, families are in a recession, they don't need to wait for some economic definition. But in the midst of all that, he's still talking about giving away tax cuts for wealthy Americans. It's outrageous. And I think what people are, if there's anything people are uncertain about, they're uncertain about that word I used before, the drift. They're wondering about where are we going? Where are we going economically? They're sitting there looking at their bills on education and health care and maybe a mortgage foreclosure crisis, and they're thinking, this guy's talking about health, or talking about tax cuts for wealthy Americans again and again and again, budget year after budget year. And even on children's health insurance, even though the president made the wrong decision twice on vetoes, he has a chance this year to do at least two things, maybe three, but at least two. He can say that they're going to do this government will do everything possible to reach out to every eligible family in America, every child, and get them enrolled. And that means advertising and outreach. That's number one. Number two, once they get enrolled, he should do everything in his power to make sure that families utilize those good services. And thirdly, what the president could do, when he's planning this next fiscal year's budget, he could say that even though I'm leaving office in January of 2009, the budget will go well beyond that. And he should make provisions for children's health insurance, some proposal on children's health insurance beyond his term of office, because he's responsible for the budget that he passes on to the next president, no matter whether he's in office or out of office. He's developing that budget right now. So I think it's an opportunity for the president to show some leadership, and bipartisanship isn't some term that starts here in Congress. We need to do it here, but he needs to show some leadership and also show some leadership on fiscal responsibility. Tell the millionaires, the multimillionaires, and the billionaires that they're going to have to wait for another day, that we've got to pay down the debt, invest in our kids, in our families, and bring people together. If he does that this year and gets his priorities straight, I think he can leave office knowing that at least in the last year of his presidency, he got the priorities of the American people first in line instead of last in line behind the wealthy and the privileged and the special interests. He's talking about spending several $1 trillion over the next 10 years in tax cuts, like he did the previous, like he wanted to do the time he's been in office. I mean, this is fiscal. It's beyond irresponsible. It's madness to do that when we know we have all these other priorities we outlined. I don't need to go through the list again, but we're also fighting a war. I mean, I don't think we've done this in American history. Give a tax cut to wealthy people at a time of war. And he's wanting us to do it again and again and again. It's outrageous. I think a lot of people would have a lot more confidence in and would be a lot less skeptical about, and that's putting it mildly, about what the president said on earmarks, if he just showed up in town. I mean, he's been here for 7 long years, and for him to start preaching about earmarks and fiscal responsibility is really beyond the pale. His party ran this Congress for years, and there was no scrutiny. We're the ones who brought scrutiny and accountability. Everyone knows now when you fund a program, your name is right next to it for the first time ever. So I think just in terms of his own credibility, it's really in question when he's been in the middle of this government for years. Secondly, when it comes to his newfound concern about fiscal responsibility, this is the same guy that ran that debt number up to, by the end of this year, $10 trillion. In fact, that debt clock that they have, they're going to have to add another digit. I'm not sure what kind of engineering that's going to take, but adding another digit
will take an earmark
because of the fiscal irresponsibility of this administration. The administration before him was not just stabilizing the debt number; the number was actually going down, and now it's gone up by about $4 trillion or more than 4. So I couldn't believe that he's going to try to lecture others about fiscal responsibility when he's the $10 trillion man now.